Hello, everybody, and happy Ouija Wednesday. I am Sapphire Sandalo, and this is my weekly live talk show where I bring on a friend and we talk about spooky stuff, and that can mean anything. It ranges from a bunch of different stuff. Lots of different stuff can be spooky, but tonight it's a very special episode because we're going to talk about something that I think is really cool. And this woman is amazing, and she has just been really instrumental in my own spiritual journey, and I'm very excited to have a chat with her tonight. She is a Filipino shaman, and she's going to talk about what that means, right? Like that can mean anything. She's a katauran, hope I said that right. And she is the owner and CEO of Herbalaria, where she sells a lot of different things. It's making ancestral plant medicine more accessible for the modern person. I hope I explained that well. But anyways, please give it up for Lyn Pacificar.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh my God, thanks for being here. Ooh, and here people are coming on. Hi, Kingston Earthworm, None of Your Business, Cled Twitch, Oigenics, and Makala. I don't know if I said any of these right.
Interesting names.
Thank you so much for being here. Mate, before that, do you want to briefly introduce yourself and properly say all the things that you do?
No, you're really good. But
okay.
Thank you. I was like, yes, I'm Katauran Lyn. I'm the CEO, founder of Herbalaria, an ancestral roots family company connecting community to indigenous traditions through the art of Filipino plant and energy medicine. So I do a lot of energy healing work. I've been doing this since I was little, and just being a Filipina in the diaspora and growing up in a traditional Filipino family is interesting, especially being here in LA. So I bring that flavor to my products. I bring that flavor to my healing, and especially being a shaman. So yes, being a Filipino shaman is a broad term, but in my context, it's in my family's terms. So
I love it. Actually, so somebody has already brought up, I think you're talking about her camera. So we were talking about this just before we went live, because before, when Lyn logged in, your camera was totally clear and fine, and then before we were going to go live, everything sort of went a little pixelated and weird. And why don't you explain why that's happening?
So this is an interesting time, since we have a lot of energy going around right now, especially during COVID, and everybody's on Zoom. But doing this kind of work, energy work, spiritual work, they have effect on electronics. And if you are keen on the spiritual realm and you enjoy learning more about how it affects stuff like how it drains batteries and LED lights and how they use it to detect spirits and stuff. So this is no different. So my camera actually flickers, and sometimes you'll catch an orb flying behind me or around me if you're paying attention. As a matter of fact, during one of our ancestral journey workshops sessions I had over 50 people on that call. My husband was with me. He's our AV guy. And I was drumming, and his computer, so we had two computers. This is my computer and his computer. That went crazy. It was just like, I mean, we've never seen anything like that. But with the amount of energy that gets just emitted and the amount of energy that's coursing through the ethers right now, it's affecting electronics. So you'll occasionally see my camera flicker, and this is a static camera. It shouldn't be doing stuff like that. This is brand new. The audio will sometimes do weird things, and I'm just finding that I'm going to need my husband more often to do AV work. Help me.
So, would you say this happens often, the interference with all of your electronics?
I actually receive signs and messages through electronics. I'll be saying something and my phone will go ding, at the exact moment, whether it's a notification or not. I've even received calls of you don't know where it's coming from. I'm talking about Arizona. I'm talking about all the fires in Arizona. All of a sudden my phone will go Arizona, like somebody's calling from Arizona.
Do you answer it?
No, I just kind of go, I'm okay. I got it.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's been happening since I was little. Like when my Lolo had passed away, my grandfather had passed away. My my mom was at work, and I think I brought this up on Stories with Sapphire.
You did, yeah, but you can share it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my phone rang, and it was one of those rotary phones, like it's like ching, ching, right? And I was like, hello. And I hear a shh. And if you ever called long distance to the Philippines back in the day, it was very staticky. So, and it sounded really long distance. So I'm like, hello. And then I hear Lyn Lyn. So my Lolo used to call me Lyn Lyn. And I was like, Lolo, hello, where are you? Like, and really, I could hear him. And then it was shh. And then it cut out. So I think the spirit realm likes to talk to me through electronics because it's pretty overt and blatant and in my face because my mind is always everywhere. And sometimes I don't pay attention. So they're like, hey, Lyn, hello. I'm trying to tell you something. And I'm like, oh, okay, got it.
Interesting. So, and I know that at some point you had mentioned, I think when you were at my house, you mentioned that you've received emails from spirits too. Am I making that up?
Oh, no, it's possible to receive emails from the spirit realm.
That's so interesting because I feel like when people think about ghosts and spirits, they don't usually assume that they can really interact with us in these types of like digital ways because it's so new. But right? Yeah, but like someone just
I mean, their energy, right? If they're energy, why is it impossible to go through that which is energy, right? Electronics. If you really boil it down, the electrical energy that runs through all the cords, even the origins of microfiber and from quartz crystals and how they have to grind it up and make these microfibers and all that kind of stuff. That's why people hold quartz crystals. They know that energy can run through them, and they focus energetic fields and clear things. So there's different types of work that crystals and energy can do. And it's no different through electronics, even copper wires. That's from Mother Earth. So
yeah. Because like even though things are digital, they're still made of things of the earth. That's true. I never really thought of it that way. Speaking of things going digital, how has COVID affected the work that you do? Because you do home clearings, you do a lot of in-person types of things. So how has that affected you and what you do?
So that's funny you ask, because years ago, I do a lot of ancestral work, and years ago, a lot of people keep asking me, you're in Los Angeles, we're here on the East Coast, we're in the Midwest, blah, blah, blah. We wish we could be closer to you, or they're up in the Bay. And I was such a staunch traditional medicine woman, because I'm an original medicine person, where I'm like, no, it has to be at the home. You have to come to me, blah, 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 blah. And literally when COVID hit, because ancestors said you have to adjust and you have to be flexible with the times, because as ancestors traveled through the eons, the thousands of years, they all adjusted to the layout of the land. If they went from island to mountains, they had to adjust to the plants, to the landscape, what kind of foods to eat, what animals there were. It's the same concept, except in modern day, I had to be able to be accessible to people through the internet. They can't climb the bunduk or the mountain anymore just to get to a seer or a healer.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I was born here in Los Angeles. I landed here, my spirit landed here, so that I can bring forth the ancestral message and medicine to the people here and across the globe through this, Hollywood. I'm in Hollywood. Where else can you get access to media and to certain people to really push out that message? Whereas if I had been born in the Philippines, in the province, as a matter of fact, I don't think I would have the same access, even though you have social media and Facebook and all that. It's not the same energy. So I think it was a blessing that I doing this work virtually, and I had to pivot my business even around that by offering sessions, ancestral journey sessions, and I know you were part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it is the same when these sessions are virtual, or do you feel like there's something like essential that's missing, or do you think it truly can be the same experience?
I think it's different, but I think it's validating because so many weird things happen. Like electronically, this last journey session, people were saying their lights in their bathroom shut off, like things were flickering. So the ancestral realm like permeates and goes beyond all boundaries. So for me, and it's an extraordinary experience because being traditional, you normally have the fires. I have food offerings, and there's a bunch of other protocols that have to be followed before ritual.
Mm-hmm.
However, in this case, I had to take money as a form of fair energy exchange, because there has to be an energy exchange between the spirit realm and this realm, to me as the medium, as the shaman. So that's been interesting too, where I have to actually put a price on things. Normally it'd be like, oh, it's by donation only. We can't ask for a certain fee, as tradition has always been. But ancestors said, you can't do that in this world anymore. Our world was different. Your world is different. So you must function so that you can be sustainable, and so that the rest of the people can have access to the opening of the doors for them to continue their ancestral journey, their healing work, healing their ancestors. So I'm more like a doorway. And then I don't tell people exactly what to do. I just give them a template and I go, well, go find your way to your ancestors, find your own medicine, and know your ancestry, know your roots, so that you're more stable, especially right now during, everybody's home right now. So everybody's trying to put out their frustrations, what they're processing emotionally. And they can like try to inflict their belief systems on you. They can inflict their, their traumas. They can project all their traumas out on social media. And you have to be very protective of yourself and the energy you allow into your spirit, into your body. Because if you aren't curating and discerning of the energies that enter you, it could really mess you up emotionally, internally, and result in physical illness.
Yeah. So there was a question in the chat that I'd like to pull up. How long have you been doing this? And also I would like to know, would you be able to talk a little bit about how you, I guess, like, how do you discover that you are supposed to do this work? Like, what was your journey to discovering like this is your soul's purpose?
That is a whole process that starts when you're little. This isn't something you can go, hey, can I take classes from you? And blah, 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 blah. Like the Western way. Yeah. There's no classes. This is not a class-based tradition. This is oral tradition. This is family tradition. This is inheritance by transference. So energetic transference. My dad passed away. And so that permission and that guidance and all the energies that he held and my relatives held were given to me at the time of his death. And so if we really want to go back to when it starts generations. From the very first person that accepted the role of being a healer and spiritual leader. Then if you accept that role, and you'll ask any families that are kind of adept to like healing work, they're like, oh, I only heal my family. Or I kind of like when I touch someone or like healot or massage, like they feel better. It runs in their bloodline. It's just not like I'm a healot, I'm this, because this isn't something you go and advertise yourself as, right? So this process started when I was young, seeing spirits, number one. So it's like a constant rite of passage. It's like being able to handle dark entities. You have to know how to walk between the dark and the light. So I had to do a lot of shadow work. And then I was super religious, right? So I was born into a Catholic family. So I was doing a lot of church stuff, I did masses, youth group, dealing with exorcisms. That actually exists because the spirits that are begotten of certain energies right? So if you see entities that require exorcism by Christian rite or Catholic rites of exorcisms, because they were begotten of that same energy. So what that means is if there's a demon or entity that responds to Catholic prayers, that demon or entity probably came from that tradition. It was birthed out of that tradition. So that awareness like came with experience. So as I grew older, and learning from my dad, our oils, the Helo tradition, the energy work, I used to be afraid. And so the one thing that he always told me was never be afraid of spirits. The moment they detect your fear, they can grab onto that and use that against you. They will take your fear and run with it. So when I was doing demonic work or like exorcisms and getting rid of negative entities, I have an extreme. I'm pretty confrontational, like in a weird way. Like I don't have a flight mechanism. I have a fight mechanism, which makes sense because my dad was a Filipino martial artist. But I would, instead of running away, I'd face it head on. I'm like, oh yeah, like what do you have to say to me? You can't threaten me, blah, 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 blah. So with that kind of attitude is you have to have a warrior spirit, and you have to be so strong and so brave that you can face entities, that they can't mess with you. And especially with people who have like spiritual infestations in their home or even within their spirit, that is part of their learning process. That's also a rite of passage for them. You'll notice when people don't believe in spirits, they'll always end up getting some sort of like spiritual encounter that's like messed up, like some sort of activity. It makes them believe. It forces them to believe in something.
Right.
So like exactly, right? So it gives you something to really think about, that there are different dimensions and other existences beyond this realm. And so, even when I was little, I told my mom that when we went to the library, I think I was like 5, 6 years old. I always go between 5 or 8. I don't know why. But I went to the library, pulled out a book on Egypt, and here's this little Filipino girl saying, "Oh, Mom, I used to live there."
Well, you said that?
I said that.
Whoa.
So I have past life memories. And that's like weird to hear a little Filipina girl that grew up, first language is Tagalog. It wasn't even English. I learned Tagalog and Bisaya at the same time. So it was really convoluted the way I spoke with English growing up in LA. So that's the environment I had. And then the rituals, the Catholic rituals, all that kind of stuff. And then really getting in touch with the ancestors and the spirits and listening to a different story. And as I got older, you kind of dabble in witchcraft, you dabble in finding more about the spiritual realm, what kind of rites and rituals and ceremonies, indigenous rituals are relatable to me, because it wasn't until later that I received my spiritual sponsor, which you're supposed to have, is the ancestor who will guide you in ritual and teach you the chants and all that kind of stuff. So this is kind of deep knowledge. I'm just saying it real shallow, but that process is, you can't learn this kind of stuff in a classroom. Hence, like basically you have to learn either from someone like me directly. So there's only very few people that learn from me directly. Actually, 3 people only. So I've been asked this question like, oh, how can I learn from you? And my answer usually is, well, you have to discover yourself first. Right. And you don't just take on anyone to teach. You have to, there's a trust factor. There's are you willing to learn? And do you know that this isn't the only realm you can learn? Because the classroom isn't here. Classroom's on the other side. And the ones who, you know what I mean? The ones who really know what that means, they will know that they will meet me there. I will teach them and show them certain things from ancient times, like the chants, all that kind of stuff. And they will learn there, but not here.
Yeah.
Did you see that flicker?
Yeah. I was like, oh, someone's there. Let's see. There was a couple questions. Actually, wait. Let me pull up one from Instagram. Actually, before I pull up the Instagram questions, would you mind briefly telling everyone what you told me this morning that happened yesterday? via Zoom?
Well, right now there's been a rise in requests for spiritual clearings and healings. I don't think it's a surprise. We just came out of a Pisces full moon, which was like a little bit of an emotional shit show, because, you know, it's Pisces. It goes to the deep waters of your emotions, and things that have been there are surfacing. And that could even mean your deep shadows that are coming to light. And so I received a call from this person, or actually an email, and I was really hesitant because I could already feel the energy that was behind it. Yeah. So we had a talk, and it turns out they had a demon possession. And I was trying to give them some advice without really being present. Because right now with quarantining, I'm not really seeing anyone in person, but I can work remotely. It's not impossible. So when I gave them some suggestions about staying away from social media and the TV, because a lot of that stuff is coming through is a lot of negative stuff, right? And I think that's affecting their mental health and spiritual health. And then they were saying, do you know what they told you? Do you know what they said? I'm like, no. And they said, you dumb cunt, we have networks. And I laughed my ass off, literally. And I was just like saying, you stupid bitch, I have networks. You have no idea. You know, like, honestly, that's my attitude. And I think, and what that is a play on fear and words. So when an entity or demon comes at you and starts cussing at you, in my head, I'm like, oh, that's cute. You think that hurts my feelings? Do you know the root word of cunt really means queen? Thank you. You know what I mean?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So if you study the word, if you just go, it's just one of those divine feminine goddess feminist things that I had to really look into that word to realize that there's deeper meaning, like, but anyway, anyone can argue with me. You can not like that word, whatever, but I didn't take offense to it. I actually thought it was a compliment that a demon would call me dumb, because it's like an insult in a way that's like they're threatened by my energy, And so that's okay. I'm like, okay, well, but needless to say, after that call, I did some clearing ritual in my own room. I had a lot of guardians up, like my guards were up, and I had the kids put the offering together. So we did our fire offering, and all was well afterwards.
Wow. So like, what happened after that interaction with that demon? Like, how much longer did you talk with this person?
Oh, just a few minutes. But honestly, like, it doesn't bother me. Like, I been through possessions, seen stuff.
What was that sound?
Oh, it's what sound?
Oh, there was just like I think something fell over or something.
My coffee cup.
All right. So I'm going to pull up. Okay. So this question comes from Instagram from Orlando Lacro. Okay. I don't know if I'm saying this right. When doing sayao, have you ever felt a spirit take over? What is sayao?
When you do ecstatic dancing and a spirit and you go into possession mode. I already go into possession mode with my ancestors. I have to have my husband with me to make sure that I'm okay, because I get extremely thirsty right afterwards. It is a little taxing, but I've gotten a lot better at recovery. So not all the time do you have to go into possession mode when you're doing the dance. It depends on your strength. It depends on how open you are. Depends on what you're dancing for. What are your intentions in ritual? So.
Okay. Cool. And then we have a question from Hadel Productions. Are there similarities with shamanism between indigenous cultures? So I'm assuming like he means from like Filipino shamanism to other types of shamanism.
Shamanism is indigenous in itself. in a way that it comes from our ancient traditions. That's one of the most ancient spiritual practices. We were the ones who maintained the sanity of the people in partnership with the leadership. So like for us, I would be like the shaman to the chief. I'm the one who advises, who does the divination, who does the healing. I look at people, see what spiritual infections they have. There's common thread across shamanism all over the world, and that is that we are all mediums between the spirit realm, spirit, people, animals, Mother Earth, the different dimensions. So that's where I can say we have commonality. And also speaking with animals, speaking with plant spirits. I've seen that in other forms of shamanism. So the ones that I've closely studied, other than my own practice, would be Huichol shamanism, Shipibo shamanism. These are the ones that you'll see people doing ayahuasca and because the Huichols are right here towards Mexico. It's a closer access for many of us to study. But then also there's voodoo. Voodoo can even be considered shamanism. They incorporated their ancient practices with what they had available so that they could survive. Their ancient traditions can survive. And that's exactly what happened with the Filipino practices, especially being an albulario, where we incorporated the anting-antings, which are like amulets. They could be any shape, but they'll have like words, prayers, incantations put into it. Some people liken it to witchcraft. I mean, there's like a whole onslaught in the spiritual realm, but specifically for shamanism, it is the basic idea that we are between the worlds, between the dimensions, and that we can travel between the upper realm, middle realm, lower realm, to the different dimensions in the cosmos. And that we can speak to the spirits of the animals, spirits of the rocks. It even it's quite vast and broad, that question, but that's how I would answer it, like as far as how it relates to other indigenous tribes.
I love it. All right, we have a question from the chat. Are demons afraid of prayer, or rather, can they possess you regardless of how deep is your faith to your religion?
That's a great question. Not all demons are afraid of prayer. And what was the other one? The second part, even if you're deeply religious? Yeah. Let me tell you, it's pretty evident that as religious as people are, they can be deeply possessed. And a lot of them are under a form of hypnosis because it's so deeply religious. You have to believe in a dogma in order to believe in a spirit, And then those who are more woke will be like, well, I'm using religion as a form of prayer, as a form of structure, so that I can pray to God, and that's okay too. But then those who are just like praying, and yet they'll leave their form, like when you leave mass, like in church, and they still act like bad people outside of church, then there's some deep-seated, either there's traumas they're still working through, and those traumas can act as possessions, not necessarily like demonic, but it is a form of possession. So
interesting. Someone asks, how would you describe deeply possessed?
When you're deeply possessed, it's not something that just is about you. It goes to your ancestors. It goes to physical trauma, goes to emotional trauma. It actually grabs onto you. And if I could say possession in spirit, like let's just say it's a spirit, it'll latch onto every part of you that is weak, that is damaged, that is doubtful, that has fear, anger, like all those things will be affected. So that means you're deeply possessed. Like it is a lot of work. It is a lot of peeling of the layers and clearing of that energy that first of all, it isn't even there to serve you, but for some people, it's comfort. Some people love being in their sorrow. Some people love being in their anger. They don't want to let it go. That's a form of deep possession.
Okay. So like you're so basically taken over by whatever is possessing you that you don't even realize that that's what's happening.
Exactly. Correct. And you don't want to leave it. You're comfortable.
Wow.
And that energy can transfer to the next generation too.
Oh, wow. So, oh, I did have a question, but now I forgot. Like all this discussion of demonic possession just reminds me of how I personally was raised. I was also raised in a Catholic home, and I just remember very, very clearly my mom always telling me that people who become possessed are people who do not have strong faith. So, like when you were talking about how, usually it's the most religious people who can become possessed, but I think sometimes there is a disconnect with the idea of religion to people because they think, oh, if I do the actions, but then not really like understanding what those actions are supposed to mean and what you are supposed to do just like spiritually. There's just like a lot of, I don't know, confusion. I think.
Right. The reason why our relatives, our ancestors, our families say that, oh, it's because your faith isn't strong enough. Because you have a spiritual vulnerability somewhere. I think that's what they really mean. But because they were colonized, they use words like faith, they use religion in order to help them understand an ancient understanding. They don't really remember how exactly to express anymore, except through religion.
Yeah. Oh no, that makes me sad.
It is. We do our work. We do what we can, and we can only be compassionate and understanding of what our ancestors went through. Not everyone was perfect. And I have to bring this up, because I've seen Twitter feeds of people talking about ancestral work and healing and they're saying, your ancestors were colonizers and we have to you have to be, honestly, everyone colonized. There was a level of colonization from some civilizations and societies, right? But there was also movement and trade and this type of, I don't know how to describe it, but there was an exchange of energy. There were exchanges of energy, whether they were right or wrong. And we, as the living descendants, are responsible for our own actions in healing whatever was hurt in the past, healing whatever was hurt in ourselves, if we are capable of doing so, if we have the strength of doing so, because not everybody can, and it's really difficult. It really is hard.
Yeah.
But that's what makes you stronger. If you can overcome some of the challenges, a lot of the challenges that face your spirit, that your spirit is going through, you're that much better in moving into the next era, into the next life, and just more, you're leaving a legacy for humanity that is more in balance and right relationship with Mother Earth and with each other.
Yeah. All right, we got a question here from Guy Hadel 24. Can you describe what a demon is? Is it strictly religious belief? And is there a heaven and hell? I.e., the Pope said at one time, there is no hell, just a way to control the masses.
I never like one, how can I put this? One dimension answers like that.
Right.
Because you're coming from someone who's the Pope who's saying there is no hell. Okay. But the whole time the church was teaching about hell. What does hell mean? Does it mean the absence of God? Does it mean, brimstone and fire as the Old Testament speaks of? The God of the Old Testament, it's different from the God of the New Testament. And so when we speak of hell, demons and stuff, it's all relative to the experience and who is describing it, right? So for me, demons are lower vibrational energies and entities that exist on another realm, another dimension, that can move back and forth between our world and their world. They're dark, or they can be, there's so many aspects to them. I'm just going to give examples. Okay. So you can have mimic demons, entities that pretend to be your guides or pretend to have your best interest when really they don't. You have demons that are like the poltergeist, very bad, negative entities that will just like throw shit around and put fear into you, right? Then you have the demons that really do the possession stuff, that are bad. That's not a good one. And that's like an understatement.
Those aren't good.
Aren't good demons. And, I'm not saying I'm an expert in demonology. I'm just saying, like, in terms of the ones that I've seen and experienced and know of, as far as through the work that I've done, is that there are many levels of demonic entities. They could be from another world. They could be the ones born of religion, right? So, like, for example, let's go back to the Inquisition, right? And people were being pagans, people who believed other than Christianity or Catholicism, whatever, were being killed and lynched because they were idolaters and they didn't believe in a certain faith. And out of that trauma, out of the millions of people that died in that trauma, entities were born out of that. Did you see my lighting change when I said it?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this is you can't fake this shit. I'm not doing anything. But yeah, so a lot of the entities were born out of traumas, out of these things that happened, because it all starts with this very energy. I was talking about this with Gilbert last night with my husband, that the universe is like reflections of each other. Mm-hmm. It's reflections. When you put one mirror against another mirror, you'll see dimensions upon dimensions upon dimensions, and it expands out, right? In between that is what I call intention. So what happens is there was an intention. This even goes back to creation. God intended the creation of the universe, intended the creation of man, right? Supposedly. So the highest source, there's an intelligence that had an intention to create. It's the same thing. There was an intention to cause harm. In that intention, an energy was created. And from that energy was born certain demons, entities, spirits. So that's just one way of it being born. But there are other ways where they just came out. They were just, people describe fallen angels. People describe but it all is with the intention and working with the light and dark energies, and which energy comes through the most and strongest.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's important for people to know, that the actions that we take here on Earth can affect the spiritual realm and create these entities that, can cause like harm to people.
Good point.
Yeah. We do have a question. This is from my cousin. Okay. Hi, cousin.
Hello, Ethan.
What keeps spirits staying? Okay. So what keeps spirits on the earthly realm?
Oh, I love this question. I've had this discussion. I tell my family, I'm like, when I die, I'm not staying here. I am traveling the universe. I don't know what they're thinking about staying and haunting any of these places, because there's so much more to discover, right?
Oh, no.
What?
Oh, no, it's happening.
What is it?
Wait. Hang on. Okay, wait. Hello? Crap. Hang on. I'm going to text Lyn really quick.
I'm here.
Oh, you're there. Oh my God. You disappeared for a second.
Wow.
Could you still see me?
I saw you.
Yeah. We lost your audio, and then you went black. And then ooh, does that mean someone doesn't want you to talk about this?
Who knows? I still do my work.
What was
do what I do.
Oh, right. You were talking about how when you die, you don't want to stick around, and then what keep spirits here in this earthly realm?
Oh, there's so many reasons for that. There's many reasons. Like, I can't justifiably give one reason, but I'll give you a few, if that's okay. One reason is people are attached to where they live. They don't want to leave. The second reason that I believe in is they don't want to leave their loved ones. They feel like there's an injustice, that they don't feel like they can leave this realm unless someone helps them release it. So we need like spiritual psychologists. Like, honestly, this is what I do. Sometimes I have to talk to spirits and say, hey, it's okay, you can go, or I'll ask forgiveness on behalf of the human that caused harm and do offering for that. So that helps alleviate some of the spirits that get stuck here. We also have in the Philippines really ancient spirits, the ones that like, they're not, if you're talking about human spirits, that's a different story. Like, there are some human spirits that are held prisoner by negative entities. So that's how one way they can't be released. That's what I think is really messed up. That's the one, like, if I ever encounter a spirit that's being held back by a Black entity, that's really one of the saddest things that I can say, because they deserve to move to their side. And so these are the questions that I go, where is your guardian angel? Where are your guides? When you crossed over, what the hell happened? Where was the disconnect energetically that you didn't go straight to the light or wherever you went? You literally just stayed. So your spirit was so attached, your spirit didn't leave, that you were left vulnerable to another entity in spirit to take you as prisoner or to hold you back from your eternal bliss and light in heaven, whatever you want to call it. So that, I think, is hell. That looks like hell to me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that, I know that escorting people into the spirit realm when they die is a very important practice. Is that part of why? Is to help that transition be peaceful so that you don't have anything attached to you while you're making that transition?
It's definitely one of our belief systems, for sure. I know we're not the only ones with that belief. I'm talking in terms of like our ancient pre-colonial Filipino beliefs. I'm quoting that because that's not what our name was anyways before.
Right.
So, okay, I'm just saying that. Okay, anyone out there who's all about that one. It's like, don't hold it against me. I'm just the practitioner. I'm not in academia. So and let me bring up the story of my father. I don't know if I brought this up too. When he passed away, he became that person on the other side. He told me this in dream, where he had to literally sit next to a dying person and help escort their spirit to the other side, because sometimes when they die, it's hard for them to accept that they had to die or left their body. So you need someone there to go, it's okay, it's time to go. Everyone will be fine. They'll be at peace. And then, it's like a spiritual doula.
Yeah.
You're pulling them into the next realm.
Yeah, I spoke with somebody for my podcast. I haven't released her interview yet, but she calls herself a doula for death. And she...
Is that Michelle?
No.
Oh, somebody else. Okay.
Yeah, someone else. It's my friend's mom. And she said that there's been a lot of people, like they call her when they know that they're going to die. And so she will be there. And she says she always likes to hold them right before it happens. And then, she can feel like their spirit leave.
Yeah, that's a very sacred duty. Very sacred duty. I give her much blessings and props for that work.
Yeah, she was really cool. I can't wait to release her episode. Someone says they love your setup. It feels very peaceful.
Oh, thank you. This is my dad's healing room. When he was doing work, I took it over. It didn't look like this before. This is my touch. But this is where we would have patients or clients waiting in our living room, and he would do the healing work here in this room.
I love it. All right, we have a question from Instagram. Oh, this is from my friend Alex. She's awesome. She says, as a shaman, what is your understanding of living and spiritual suffering?
You know what? I was just talking about this last night. I listened to the Dalai Lama recently, and the Four Noble Truths is the Four Noble Truths are about suffering, that it exists, that there's a way to heal it and let it go, and and move through it. And as a shaman, my understanding, because I've suffered much since I was younger, through a lot of spiritual trials, growing up as a teenager in LA, all that kind of stuff, that all constitutes part of your shamanic lessons. You have to suffer at some point and you have to die. Literally, people go through living and dying, or dyings and risings, what they called it. In that dying and rising, you attain certain wisdom that has to move with you, has to go with you, if you're going to continue down the path of shamanism and this kind of work. Oh, I'm feeling. I felt like a hand on my shoulder. It was like I was all like, okay. I don't know if you saw something in the back, like any orbs. Let me know if anyone sees orbs.
I'm gonna rewatch this part.
Okay. Last time I tried sending you video of orbs when I was doing something, and I was like, it's going through the portal. So my mandala in the background's like a portal. So it's the universe. A mandala represents the universe. So I sometimes see spirits flying in and around and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
What was the other part? It was suffering and living?
Living and spiritual suffering.
Living and spiritual suffering. So I think I answered that as far as like what I had to go through to be where I'm at today. There's a lot, and it never stops. There will always be a point where you have to check yourself spiritually and not revert to an old way, an old pattern. And then when you're helping other people, you can always say, I've been through that. I understand you. And then your spirit can move through their spirit and see where the imbalance is, where that energy needs to be removed or healed. And because you know the layout of the spiritual land, it's just better. So human suffering, living, and shamanism is like laying down your maps. You need maps. So they're like, the topography of the spiritual realm is so vast, and so it's so infinite that whatever part of the land you land on, you're mapping out, that's your area. This is where you're going to be working with. And whatever you know beyond in the distance, you have an idea. It may not be something you're exploring per se, but it's something that you can see in the distance. It's something you can kind of relate to. So as you work from experience and move out, once again, it's like that reflection and the dimensions that like extend out until it becomes so minute and so fine that you can no longer see it. That's what it's like. It's like living in reflections, living in intentions.
All right.
It's deep, right?
Yeah.
I hope you got that. That was like way deep. I'm a Scorpio moon, so.
I know someone just commented, I'm sorry, but I'm confused.
I know. I was just like, wow.
I'm just going to let that sink in.
You have to let it process. Okay, let's just put it this way. Like, your experience in suffering and living is what helps you to pass your rite of passages. You understand what I mean? Like, if you're going to talk about shamanism, you have to go through the risings and dyings of your life. You die. Your old self dies. You suffer. You could even go through like real, like near-death experiences, which is very powerful. So this is where I believe this is how I'm answering the question, is how suffering helps you in the path of shamanism, in living with that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Okay. Everything else I said, reflections and intentions. Okay. Like, that might be for another day, or you can out or drink some wine to that and really let that sit, really let that settle in.
So I have a question. So like you said, you live in Hollywood, and there's plenty of people who may not necessarily be the real deal. We see like those signs for psychic readings like everywhere. So I guess my question is, what are some ways that people can decipher, like, or what's like a litmus test that you can use on people who claim that they might be, whether it's a psychic or a shaman or a healer of some sort? Like, what are some red flags people should look out for, if that makes sense?
Okay. So growing up in Hollywood, yeah, there's plenty of little shops that say psychics,
Right.
palm readings. I'm guilty of learning how to do palm reading. Okay, I love palm. I used to do that.
I think it's so cool.
I think it's cool. I was like, this is your marriage line. I have 2. My husband has 1. I was like, okay, you're only marrying me. No, honestly, like, the red flags I have is when it's so overtly like sensationalized in some way, just like, ooh, crystals everywhere. You have to, you got to have the lights, you got to have neon lights, you got to have, and maybe that's just the way they live. They have to like somehow con people or make people believe they're so spiritually infected, charge them $10,000 so that they can do that. But that's where they take advantage of people who are really truly spiritually infected, is they believe so intensely that they need a healing. They'll drop that much money. I've known people to do this where they're like, I gave $5,000 just for a curse to be lifted. I'm like, excuse me, what? I'm like,
$5,000.
You could have given me that $5,000. I would have done it for real. You know? Yeah, no. Okay, so before COVID, I only had a personal website that I don't advertise. One of the things that our tradition is, it's always word of mouth and referrals. Because it's something that's very sacred. You just don't go, hey, I'm a healer, I'm a shaman. Unlike now, I have to be open and public about what I do, my medicine, because my ancestors are like, how are they gonna know if you are hiding what you do? And that won't wake them up to look into their roots and to their ancestry if they don't feel inspired that they can find their own magic and their own healing. Why? How are you helping people? Right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, the red flags I get is when they charge you a lot of money, mm-hmm. when they make these promises of, yes, I can lift the curse. Yes, I can do all this. Oh my God. You will never see me do that. I will be like, I don't guarantee anything. There's protocols, but I don't guarantee the work because it all depends on you. You are the one who has to be willing and open to receive the healing and rebalancing. I'm not like that, like quick fix, person. It takes time to do rituals. Like some people, it depends though, again, it depends. So like some people are like, well, I want a healing of this. Okay, that's great. But you got to do the work, even post ritual. Another red flag I get is if they're, I don't know if I'm going to get slack for this one, if they're not in the tradition of their ancestors and they're touting it around like they are.
What's an example of that? Like a non-Filipino person doing Filipino stuff, or like?
Okay, so it's hard here. This is where I have to draw the line because some people are past lives this, right? Mm-hmm. Some people are past lives, maybe a Chinese practitioner, a Chinese person who did healing 500 years ago. They were born in this life as maybe a white person, and now they're doing Chinese medicine or something. So that, I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about the ones who are saying, oh, I do ritual, I do this, I do that. And they're appropriating from cultures that are not their own without permission. They just glean information. They're just gleaning, they're taking. That's why I'm so careful about what information I give and how I say Filipino shamanism, because I can't blanket everything. There's we're 7,000 islands of so many distinct ethno-linguistic groups. I cannot barely say that this is exactly what a Filipino shaman looks like. That would be really unfair, And so the only litmus test that I have is for someone who is energetically, you can even feel it when they feel fake. They feel like they're blowing smoke, up your, and I don't know who's watching this, so I'm just like, do I let go of my language? So yeah, it's very you have to be very intuitive sometimes too, because they're really good at lying. There's a lot of people that are really good at lying.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
know it's the frauds that make the legitimate people look like fakes too, because
Yeah.
when people discover that these people are con artists, then they're like, oh, well, not everyone who claims to be this is a con artist. And it's
Yeah.
just, that's something that really always just makes me upset, because it's just like, that's not.
And you know what? And they're really the they're really the non-POC people who are doing a lot of that. And I'm saying it here. Let me tell you, people are willing to pay non-POC rates to they're like in the thousands for healings and readings, but when it comes to POC, to indigenous traditional medicine people, original medicine people, they don't want to pay. They don't want to ask your rate. They don't want to like let's say, oh, I asked for $250 for a reading, healing, something like that, right? But someone who's a non-POC may be charging 500, 800, and it's like, okay, you know. And this is a lot of our traditional healers and medicine people, we've talked about this together as groups, and we're just like, what is up with that? Like, what do you think is so validating to you that's different from someone who's a POC?
Love the tea, sis. Yeah, no, it's true. I think, I mean, we can see this in so many different practices. People don't really see it as a real thing until it's taken over by white people. Like, I think the biggest example of that is yoga. Hello, like every single yoga teacher is like a white lady. I'm just like, how did that happen? You know, it's just like, people, it doesn't become a thing until the whites are doing it. And I'm just like, why is that?
Yeah, and I'm sure like for my company Herbalaria, even within the Filipino community, if the Filipino community doesn't see Herbalaria as great, you know, like touted by someone who's white, you know, like someone else, other, like if it were in Sephora or in some bigger like thing, then Filipinos will be like, have you heard of Herbalaria? It's a Filipino company. Da, 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 da. But then the ones who do know about it, like they're like, oh, it's right. And it's almost like we keep it to ourselves. And then until it becomes big enough where, you know, non-Filipino people are seeing the value of this medicine, of indigenous traditions, of traditional medicine by a real shaman healer, not just like these other companies are like, oh, this is ritual.
Right.
Wait, who founded your company? I'm sorry, what? Okay. No, I don't think so. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
No, I don't think you're. And then there are some people who are going around really like, I think they're appropriating traditional medicine and turning it into something else. Like white sage. Oh my God, that was a huge thing. That's why I talk about guava leaf a lot. I know you did your own little smudge bundle. I thought you could.
Yeah. I'm so glad I learned about that, because before I was just like buying like sage because I didn't like know. But yeah, I got the leaves from my grandpa's tree and my dad's trees.
Good for you.
Yeah.
You should be drinking that tea. It'll heal you.
I know. I need to get more.
Nighttime. Do it at nighttime so it'll relax you, and then it'll bring down blood sugar and high blood pressure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will do that.
Yeah.
I guess I just briefly wanted to tell the people in the chat like how we met. So I was looking for people to interview for my new podcast. And I knew that for this new podcast, I wanted to focus specifically on Filipino stories. And I had reached out to the hosts of This Filipino American Life. I don't know them. I just emailed them. And then I believe his name is Joe. He referred me to you and Girly.
Yeah.
And Girly was awesome too.
They just had a baby. So cute.
Oh my God. Yay. Yeah. I love Filipino babies. And so, yeah, I reached out to you. I genuinely didn't think that you would respond because I was just like, I don't know. She might think I'm like weird. Like, I don't know. But like your email response, like literally gave me chills because you said, that you had seen me on the Travel Channel, and
Yeah.
that you had been meaning to like reach out to me and tell me like some of the stories that you have experienced.
Oh, it wasn't that crazy?
Yeah, and you were like, "This feels ancestrally guided," and like that was the phrase that made me go, "Oh my god!" I was like, "We were meant to meet."
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, the very first time I met you was on a full moon,
Mhm.
and I was at your house for like 6 hours, and like I don't do that with anybody.
We did ritual. I taught you how to pole dance for a second.
Yeah. Seriously, it was just like everything about that night. I was totally out of my comfort zone, but like also incredibly comfortable. And that's where I was like, wow. I was like, this is, I don't know. I was like, this is magic.
My whole place is magical. Like usually when people come over, they never want to leave. Yeah, they never want to leave. Like Gilbert and I were talking about it last night. I'm like, how do we make our website so no one wants to leave? Like, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, but like, no, really, like to spend time to come into our place where it's so peaceful. My children, I have 2 kids. I have an 18-year-old now and an 11-year-old. I know, she's in college. I know, I trip out that I have a college baby. But yeah, even though I have kids, the house is so beautiful. You know, usually when you go into a home that has family and kids, it's like there's
like chaotic energy. Yeah.
Chaotic. No, there's like beauty. There's some sort of peace and order and still not like pretentious. It's comfortable, you know? So that's the kind of thing I want to bring forth to the world and through our website, through our products, where you want to feel comfortable and you want to be home with us. You want to just feel so good and at peace with what we create, as far as the environment, as far as the virtual world. Whenever I do ritual sessions with people, I want you to feel okay with me, that your ancestors are working with me. I'm working with you as living ancestor, that I'm here to help you and guide you in the best way possible. So I'm glad that when you came over to the house, you felt so comfortable enough. That's why I said it's ancestrally guided, because your relatives know already. They're like, oh yeah, you have to meet her. And when I saw you on the Travel Channel, because we watch Paranormal on camera, I'm like, wait, is she Pinay? I was like, she needs to hear these stories. Like, how do I get in touch with her? I was like, she needs. So then I went up to the TV, actually. I was like, I need to meet her, or she needs to meet me.
How long until I emailed you did that happen?
That was like months before you emailed me. So it was like a weird energy. So Soraya, my daughter, she's like, she fangirls you, and she's probably watching me right now saying, oh my God,
hi Soraya.
She wears your clothes once in a while, like the ones.
Oh my God, I totally forgot. I'm glad they fit her.
No, it fits really well. It's really cute.
Oh, I'm glad.
Like, where'd you get that? She's like, that's Ati Sapphires. I'm like, oh, cute.
Oh, that makes me feel so happy.
It was truly synchronous and meant to be. And
it truly was. And honestly, like I forget when it was that we had mentioned this to each other, but I told you that like I'm glad that you are the Filipino shaman that I met, because you were born here, or you born in Philippines?
I was born here.
Yeah, so you're like a Filipino American, and I feel like that also just adds like another layer of relatability. You know, and I feel like I met you at such like a perfect time, because I don't know, I was just like, I don't know, like I feel like I never truly knew what I wanted to like, or what I connected to spiritually, until like I learned about like stuff that was related specifically to like indigenous Filipinos, because that's when it finally felt like, oh, okay, like this is like in my blood. This is the thing that I should learn more about. I don't know if that's making any sense.
No, I think. Okay, let's go back. Let me backtrack a little bit, because there are those of us who are here, exist as Filipino Americans, that are authentic, you know, but I'm just saying the ones that are coming out as not inauthentic, those are the ones you want to be careful of because they're
Yeah.
getting agey. There's a certain new aginess like that isn't really, that means they're not really touching in on their ancestral work. It's a little bit of a crutch. I mean, that's part of the process though. It's part of like learning about yourself, and I'm not hating on that. But like if you were going to meet someone at this point in your life where you just want to cut through all the stages, you might as well get with someone who's already in touch and rooted and doing the work is what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I feel like I just skipped all of that.
Yeah.
And I went right to you.
Yeah. You know, honestly, like I admire all the work that there's a lot of people who follow me who are just barely getting on their spiritual journey as Filipinx, Pinay, women, men, whatever, all genders. And sometimes it starts with dabbling.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's like they'll do psychic readings or they'll do tarot readings. And, you know, that's all great. Those are all tools, all forms of divination, all forms of touching in on your ancestral roots. It's the ones where I'm very careful of where they are inauthentic and copying people. They're just biting off me. Verbatim, even energetically,
so ridiculous,
copying me. I honestly, like, I've seen it. That's why I'm kind of like saying it like that. I'm like, there's people out there who are not original. They're not doing their original medicine. They're not authentic to their own magic, and they're literally latching on. That's why it's something that's sad. But this is where I'm here. I'm here to inspire you and everyone out there. Please do your work. You know, like if it takes dabbling, if it takes you seeing a spiritual coach, so be it. So what, you know? But at the end of the day, are you coming back home to yourself?
right?
Are you
Yeah.
returning back to yourself? Or are you just like, oh, I look up to this person. I want to do what they do. You know? How about you
Right.
do you?
Yeah.
You know, how about you do you? Because in the diaspora, first of all, unless you know the name of your ancestor, if you know your indigenous roots, the very tribes from which you stem from and whatever traditions that comes from, you're on your own to make the new rituals. Because the ancient ones prophesied, and I'm going to say this in general because this is like something other shamans and elders, we talked about this in circle, where the new realm that's coming through is we're not going to be able to just identify as Filipino anymore, or just as American, or just as this and that. Everybody's going to have to end up like, there's like this new rituals will be made, new, like a whole new race of people. This is like very far in the future, but I'm just like saying, like everything's going to coalesce where we're no longer going to have like super distinctions between each other. We're all like interbreeding, melding and mixing, where we just love each other so much. We almost become like, not homogeneous, but like where we make a new world of like harmony and just appreciating each other's makeup, no matter what it is. You know, I mean, that's really, it's a real, that this is like
way off in the
this is real off out there. I don't know, like this audience might be able to handle that. But
oh, they can handle everything.
Okay. Because like I want to be very careful about how sometimes I say things in terms of like the spirit realm and prophecy, things that I foresee, because I don't want anyone to take it out of context. You know, you got to understand when you're on your journey, you find your own truth. What I'm saying now it's my own truth. You know, it may not apply to you or resonate to you. So be it. Okay, it's cool. It's just another interesting person to listen to, you know? But I think with everything, with how the world is going, we're all learning how to better connect with each other, better connect with the spiritual realm. I think that's why there's a rise in interest in ancestral work. I don't know if you're noticing that. I'm seeing it throughout my Instagram. Like, oh, ancestor work, ancestral healing, ancestral this, da 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 da. So I think that's really commendable and really good that people are trying to delve deeper into their own healing and their journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially for me, like I feel like because when I was younger, I had absolutely zero interest in learning about my ancestors or learning about Filipino history, like none of it. And then I feel like these last couple of years, I've really been like, I don't know, something just like changed in me where I was like, I need to know everything about all the people that came before me. Yeah, and it's been really nice.
Good. It should be. I mean, it's not going to always be nice, but
Yeah. It's
I
been
mean,
nice so far.
I think your grandfather comes through for you a lot.
I hope so. I
No,
talk to him every day. I mean, I don't. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know if this even is anything. You should tell me. So I added his photo. I have a little altar over here where I put photos of the ancestors that I like to remember or talk to. So like every morning I'll like go over there and I'll just like have a little talk with my grandpa. And then I get this like a little, it's like a different kind of, it's like, it feels like like a body chill, like over like when I'm like talking to him. And I don't know if that's just like me. I don't know. I feel like every time I go over there now, like I feel like a little chill. And when I ask like him to, I don't know, make himself known. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm just like imagining that or if that's like something.
no, that's part of it. That chill, and when you talk to them, they're more than happy to let you know they're there. So I think he's with you. He's there with you, behind you, and just always just encouraging you to do your work.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I know that I have so much like to learn, but I'm truly just like enjoying, I'm enjoying the process.
Good. It's good for you to have an advocate on the other side too,
Yeah.
because
Yay.
he's your most recent ancestor.
Yeah.
Advocating for your work, talking about you, so proud of you. And then all the ancestors end up talking to each other. They're saying, "Oh, Sapphire, da 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 da. She's telling stories about us, and meeting with this person." And so it's really exciting on the other side when they get to talk about their descendants, their living ones, with such pride.
Oh, that makes me feel nice.
Yeah, it's really good. It's so sweet. Like that's why when I do a lot of this ancestral work with other people and help them and feel better and just find communication, open those lines of communication with their ancestors, it's better than, I mean, me just being that spiritual medium for them. They now can communicate with ancestors themselves. You know, it's a tool. It's something that brings comfort,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so validating of the spirit realm that it's not just you die, you go to heaven or hell.
Yeah.
They're always there for you. And there will come a point where you'll have to be on your own and they don't have to come as often to comfort you. But then they pray for you all the time.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know if I ever actually mentioned it, or maybe I did and I'm forgetting, but I've never seen or felt like a really like obvious ghost or spirit. And I think part of that is because I am kind of afraid of that happening. And I think it took my grandfather's passing for me to be like, no, I'm open because like I want to see my grandpa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that,
Yeah.
where you're like, oh, I don't see anything. I don't really feel anything. I'm like, oh, you will.
Yeah. I feel stuff changing for me now.
There's like a huge switch that happened with his passing. And I think that's part of transference. When one dies, the power goes to you. His power of storytelling went to you. And that's something you can't forget. Like in our tradition, it's not just about healing. It's our oral traditions.
Mm-hmm.
And with that comes certain healing work too, because when you talk story and talk about our myths and our spirits, you bring life to our culture. You bring life to our spirit, if that makes sense. You that's why people listen to you and they feel enlivened. They love to hear your voice. There's comfort behind it. there's a certain warmth behind it that our storytellers had, and you possess that power. And that's such a beautiful gift.
I have chills. Oh, thank you.
Yes,
Oh man, I feel like that's a good place to end. Also, because my dinner arrived. It's okay. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. This was maybe my favorite Ouija Wednesday ever.
Yeah,
I've done this for a while. What if you ever want to come back? You are always free to. But before we log off, do you want to tell everyone about your awesome website and your company and where they can find you?
Okay, so my website's www.herbalaria.com.
Oh, wait, I have
spelled
it.
Her.
There it is.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Cut the work out for me. Or you follow me on Instagram. It's I am Herbalaria.
Yay! Awesome. Oops.
I hope it was fun and enjoyable.
I mean, I loved it. I'm sure everyone in the chat loved it. Like, there were so many comments that I didn't show, and people are like, "Wow, what? My mind is like breaking." Yeah, people were really into it.
Honestly, like we'd have to sit down for a few hours, maybe, like, and just let people like, what's going on, and give me questions. Yeah, sure. Like, I can't answer everything, and I will never pretend to know everything.
Yeah, that's what I love about you. You're just very real.
Like LA, baby, LA.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Lyn.
Thank you for having me. It was such an honor. So deeply honored to speak to everyone. And I just send out blessings to you, to all of your ancestors. I pray that you found some value or any nuggets of information and energy in this interview with Sapphire. You can always find me on my website, follow me on Instagram. And I love you, Sapphire, so much. Thank you for being that person, for being such a beautiful energy, for being your ancestors' greatest dreams.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. I miss you.
I miss you too, babe. Like, I wish we could hang out and do ritual again, but no.
I know. Once all this is over, if it ever ends.
In about a year.
Oh, it's too long.
I predicted 18 months and it's already gone this far.
Ugh. All right.
Also, make sure to take care of your house and earthquake ready.
God, I know. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, I'm already like predicted several, so I'm kind of like,
wait, do you know when
those people, huh?
Do you know when the big one is coming? Because that's my biggest fear.
You know what? Years ago, my sister Gilbert and we all sat. We're like, something big's coming. Something big is coming. It ended up coming in the form of COVID.
Okay.
So it may not be what you think. But
I just want someone to tell me when is it coming so I can prepare.
We have the next 50 years to prepare.
Okay. I hope it doesn't happen this year.
So from now until then, you have 50 years.
Great.
That's a good time, right?
Yeah.
I'll share my predictions with everybody.
Okay.
All right, my love. Thank you.
Bye. Love you.
Love you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for being here.